received. And his view was that appreciation for any one gift is the way you get the second gift. If you don't appreciate the first one, why should they give you a second one? And so appreciation, when people have gone beyond what they really could, was a very important part. Now here's the difficult part. Right now, the government, not only the United States, but everywhere else, and the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Treasury, everybody's trying to figure out, how do you go back to more regular types of operation? How do you slow down the stimulus spending? How do you and when do you quit printing more money? And how do you start moving back to normal? And so what we've been dealing with here since the first of the year is, how do we go back to major gifts? Because it's very good to maintain the number and have the participation. But if we're going to get to 750 million, then we're not going to get there with that total number. We're not going to get there by $2,500 gifts, even though they're important. And they may be the precursor for a lot of other gifts. And so what we are trying to do is planning for next fall to get back into the major gifts business and almost starting over again with the campaign and doing a lot of individualized activities for small groups and so on. So in a real way to kind of recharge everything, even though it's doing well, but to recharge those $1 million gifts that help you get, potential gifts that help you get here. Because the hope is that they will be then more responsive to it. And then this gets back to the endowment. Well, what are you going to ask them for? Well, our goal, if, as you know, people don't give unrestricted anymore. I mean, Governor Clements did to UT Southwestern, but that's the first major gift unrestricted I've heard of in at least a decade. And people give you 1,000 and say do with it what you would like, but when it gets big, they know what they want to do with it. A few, just a little bit of variation. And but we will always ask for scholarships, and then the academic positions and so on, and then the other part. Well, that's the wrong slide. I point to that, but the campus experience being sort of the third one on that train. But if I get a $2 million endowment for a faculty position, then usually you've been able to expect, we've had an annual return before all this hit of about 11% for 20 years on the average. And so you spend 4.75, and so then endowment builds up and pretty soon, you know, you can put it on the spending formula. Usually we usually say 4% or until it gets 20% above the book value. And it just goes from there because we have a policy you don't spend corpus. If it gets down to $1 million, then we just shut off expenditures from that endowment. And so we're dealing with some of that right now, as you can imagine. But if you ask somebody, put it in the endowment. When the market's been going down, luckily it's come up the last 6 months. If in fact it's going to go sideways, like a lot of people predict, there's volatility around a very small gradient upward, hopefully, then that's one thing. Fixed income. When you get 1 to 2%, if you put it in fixed income, you know this from your own investments. What have you got? And so I think what all of us that are trying to build up endowments for the long run, to go back to my earlier slide about its relationship with quality, what we're going to have to do if people want to see the outcome of their gift is either have to ask for more or have some way to know that this is going to start smaller. Because what you're going to, and we need it to do, is 2 to 3 years of operating money to keep something going before the endowment builds up to click in that its earnings can cover it. And that's a difficult conversation. Some people, if they're pretty astute in how things are run, it makes a lot of sense. To others, it just doesn't compute. And so why can't you cover the rest of that? Well, you know, for 4 years or whatever before we get on the spending policy, you can do a few, but you can't do many things and cover it that way. And so, as a result, we're trying to work through, one, getting back to major gifts, and number 2, trying to be able to talk with people about the needs to get them all underway when you get going. So all of this to say, I have never, the chair of my economics department's here, I have never paid attention to the economy and what different people are saying. And just like in the department, that there's no agreement on anything, not even how great the chair is. But you know, because those of us who are in the business, or part of our business, of raising money, you know, it is more difficult to talk about exactly what can be done with it if it's an endowment over time as opposed to a regular gift. And so we've had a lot of scholarships given, but on an annual basis rather than endowing. And we've had a lot of good things happen, but you got to get back to endowment but yet you've got to be realistic in what you say to them, because the earnings of that, if most people are true in their predictions, and the one that seems the most accurate to me at this point in time, and which means it won't be accurate 1 month from today, but I like the Bridgewater report, I like Woody Brock's letters, and I like a few others that I read just to get a variation of opinion on these things. And they're all saying for the next 3 to 4 years, 2 to 2.5% GDP growth each year. If we're there rather than 4 to 5, then you're going to have a lot of employment, unemployment stay high. You're going to probably have interest rates stay low. And so if that occurs, then how are our earnings going to occur off of these endowments? And that's something that we can't oversell, but we can't be too pessimistic